We welcome in now NewsNation national security contributor Tracy Walder, former CIA officer and FBI special agent, and trial attorney John Fishwick. Thank you both for being here. Tracy, I'd like to start with you. We've learned now this suspect worked with the CIA allegedly. The capacity's unclear. At the same time, at this presser, the head of the FBI, Kash Patel, he said there was no vetting before bringing him and others in the same program, Operation Allies, to the U.S. You're a former CIA officer. How do you interpret these updates together?
Well, thanks so much for having me, Kelly. So, yes, I actually worked with Afghan nationals when I was in Afghanistan as a part of the CIA. So, this is something that I actually was very much a part of, though it was in the early 2000s when we had first entered there. I disagree with Patel's assessment that he wasn't vetted, because that vetting would have actually occurred by the NCTC when this individual was allowed to begin work alongside the CIA. So, my guess is when he was brought here under the Biden program, that vetting process, that CIA ID that he probably had, was essentially the vetting that was done. And then there wasn't a second vetting that would have occurred as a result of that. So he was vetted prior to being able to work alongside the CIA.
Understood. And John, right now we're looking at 3 counts of assault with intent to kill while armed, possession of a firearm as well. At the same time, you have authorities monitoring the condition of these 2 guard troops for a potential of a first-degree murder charge. Many praying, of course, that that's not the case. They're now fighting for their lives in the hospital. How do you see prosecutors building their case based on the evidence that's been presented this morning?
Yeah, so Kelly, they'll be looking at all the social media, all the electronic devices to see, who supported this defendant. If you're supporting them, that's aid and support to a terrorist. Janine Pirro basically described that this is an act of domestic terrorism. It was designed at a holiday, a national holiday, to intimidate all of our population, all of our country. And so that right now it's a more bread and butter kind of assault and attempted murder. Obviously, we hope that these 2 young folks survive, that then would become a murder charge, connected to, looks like domestic terrorism, maybe international terrorism. And if these folks die, which we all hope and pray does not happen, then this person would be subject to the death penalty if that does happen. So they're going to look at all the background of this person, who supported this person. Obviously a very premeditated attempted murder at this point.
And Tracy, I was watching you last night on Cuomo, and my ears perked up when you were talking about this threat warning that came all the way back in September from the National Counterterrorist Threat Center. What made that report come to mind? What's your interpretation, specifically after this press conference as well?
Yeah, so that report came to mind because I had actually done a video back on it, sort of bringing everyone's attention to it when it came out in September. There was a lot of information that 100,000 Afghans had sort of come over the border and were, going to attack the U.S. And that was obviously incorrect. But the core of the report that I found interesting was that it was really singling out that members of law enforcement and the military here in the U.S. could be victims of attacks by Al-Qaeda, by ISIS, and by other foreign terrorist organizations. People that were already here would be committing those attacks. And in my opinion, that's essentially what I believe happened yesterday. Although, Kelly, we don't have any confirmation that this was done at the behest of Al-Qaeda or another FTO. To me, that's what really piqued my curiosity and really made me draw that connection.
Well, it was a fascinating point to make. And John, to Tracy's point, motive is going to be so key in this case. How does that play into any potential consequences this suspect may ultimately face?
Yeah, that's going to be critical. That's what law enforcement needs to find out really within the next few days, the next few hours. What was the motivation? Is it connected to some organization like Al-Qaeda, to some domestic group, to some international group? And is it a much larger conspiracy that we're looking at here? Folks who aided this person, the planning that went into this, all of those sort of circumstances will be critical to find out in the near future. There could be other folks to be charged who supported this. This was an attack on our homeland, and the law enforcement needs to get to the bottom of this quickly to gather that evidence.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.